My child was not potty trained in 3 days. I am not an expert on potty training. However, I am a mom to 2 identical twin boys. And this is my story of our first month potty training our twins. Hi, my name is Emma. I am a mom of identical twin boys. I have a background in Montessori education. We apply a lot of the Montessori principles in our home, and they have even translated into how we have approached potty training or potty learning. For this video, just know that when I say training, that is the same as learning. When you're learning to do something, it is also a training. It's something new. So today I want to share with you what our first month of potty training our twins looked like. Well, one of our twins. More on that in a bit. I'm going to share what method and approach we followed, some obstacles I have had to overcome on this journey, and what those first couple of days looked like, and what it looks like now that we are 1 month into potty training. I also am going to share some little phrases and things that I will say often that have helped eliminate power struggles in our potty training journey, which I know is a big obstacle for many people. First, I want to just say some of the things that I really had to mentally overcome and just mindsets that I needed to shift. And I think for any parent who's potty training their child, these are things that we have to get comfortable with. So some of the mindset shifts that I needed to make. 1, it is just pee and poop. It's things that are normal. I do this, you do this. And so to just normalize the process altogether, I needed to remind myself that they will learn this, that they are capable, and you need to remind yourself of this often. I needed to keep it in perspective that there will be accidents. They will miss getting to the potty, and that's okay. That's part of the process. It is going to happen. I had to get okay with that and get really comfortable with that happening. I had to get comfortable with the fact that this is going to involve me and affect me a lot. Something that I've taken for granted, for 28 months, that they now are needing me involved in. They didn't need me involved in the process of going to the bathroom. They just did that in their diaper, and they needed me after the fact to change their diaper, but they didn't need me or my involvement for anything else. And now they do for this to be successful. And so it's a big shift for me and how we structure our day. Not a hard shift necessarily, but it's big. It affects a lot of places in our life. But it becomes very natural, and now I feel like we are getting into a routine and a rhythm of it after a month. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the method specifically, but some of these ideas came from this book that I read. And one of them is that as the parent, we are prompting our children throughout the day to go to the bathroom. And we will say clear statements like, it's time to go to the potty, or I see you need to go to the bathroom. Let's go. And we are really helping them learn to do the right thing. But this is a hard balance because we are prompting them, but we don't want to over prompt them. And this was an obstacle and something that I struggled with for a while. And once I felt like I found that rhythm of prompting but not over prompting, it got a lot smoother and it was more successful. This is an interesting idea that when we're potty training, we're not teaching them how to pee and poop. We're kind of teaching them where their pee and poop goes, that it goes in the toilet or in the potty. It's more of a social construct that they're learning, this socialization aspect. They have been doing this their whole lives. They've just been doing it likely in their diaper. And so now we are teaching or training them to learn where that goes and kind of this social appropriateness with bodily functions. And that was a perspective I didn't really think of. Now, one of the most helpful perspectives that really helped me to enjoy potty training as much as possible was that this is our first opportunity as parents to really get a window into how our child learns. And so when we are doing this with our child, we will, one, be spending a lot of time with our child, and two, we will get to see how they learn, how they respond to us and these interactions. And it's really just a glimpse into their little minds and their personality. And when I thought about it that way, it became a really good opportunity to get to know my child better. And because of this, everybody's journey is going to look different, because all of our children are different and they have different needs and preferences and personalities, and that is going to affect how your potty training goes. So this is my experience, and if there's something that seems helpful and you want to try it, great. If it seems like, nope, that won't work for my kid, great, don't do that thing. This is, again, just me sharing my experience, what worked, what didn't work, and what I've learned in the process. One thing I've noticed is you have to really be strong when you start potty training and believe that your child can do it, because you're going to hear from other people that, like, they're too young, or they're not ready yet, or you don't need to worry about that yet. I didn't potty train till this age. And there's a lot of comparison around potty training. And I think you know your child best. You know when they are ready, and likely they're ready before our world or our society thinks they are. And it's important to know that both your child will show signs of readiness, but also that you need to show signs of readiness. And actually, I tried potty training my children at like 18 months. I thought that they were showing a lot of interest. I knew they were starting to communicate more. I knew they could have done it. They were ready at that time, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't mentally prepared to deal with all of what potty training entailed. And so we had tried it and it wasn't successful because I wasn't committed to it. And so now this time around, I really have committed to it, and it has worked. It is working, and I'm sure there'll be maybe periods of regression, possibly depending on life circumstances. But for the most part, I feel pretty confident that this will remain and will be consistent in our path forward. And the other just like simple mindset shift is like, this is a really big adjustment for them. We've been doing this, going on the potty, going on the toilet, as long as we can remember. But for them, one day they'll wake up and what they've been doing their whole life now has to change. And so we have to be patient, and we have to be empathetic and understanding that this is a big adjustment, and it will come with a lot of different emotions and responses from our child, and we are there to support them through all of this. I found that to be the most challenging when I wasn't accepting of these mindset shifts that I needed to, like just keeping perspective that they can do this, they will get this, they're not going to be missing the toilet for the rest of their lives, they're not going to be pooping on the floor for the rest of their lives. Like, this is a period of learning that unfortunately or fortunately can be really messy, can be frustrating, and can be really a lot of work. But it's worth it, and it's necessary work, and I think it can be a real great time with their child as well. So how did I go about potty training? Like I said, I tried when they were 18 months old, and then I think we tried maybe for a week or so, and I decided, hopefully you can't hear that, my neighbor is lawn mowing. We tried when they were 18 months old, and that did not work. Not because they weren't ready, I wasn't ready, I wasn't committed. And so I just put it on pause, and we revisited it now at 28 months. So I think for me, my desire with potty training was that it is just as natural of a thing as possible. That it's just another part of our day, right? Going to the bathroom is part of our day. It's something that as humans, we learn we have to do. There are a lot of natural times that we do this. When we wake up, before we go to bed, before we leave the house, when we get home, before we go out to play. All of these are just natural times that even I go to the bathroom. And so very naturally, I just have been bringing my son along with me at these times, and encouraging but also expecting that he try to go at these times, because we may be out of the house for a little while, or we might be getting into the car, or we might not be super close to a bathroom. And so it's important that we empty ourselves before we leave. And we can say, like I've said things like, we won't leave the house until you go potty. And I'm prepared to wait until that happens so that we can have a successful outing. For us, it took about 12 days before I felt like we kind of got this. It was really clicking. The first couple of days actually went really well, and then it felt like it kind of slid backwards a little bit, and the excitement wasn't really there in the same way that it was in the first day, and I felt like there was some resistance that I was facing and getting into some power struggles. Day 10, I remember very vividly, was the hardest day. There was almost no success all day. I think my son pooped on the floor like 3 times, and it wasn't the proudest day for myself as a mom, but I do remember at that point being like, I can't stop now. Like, at some point he's going to have to learn this, and I know we're close. I know he will get it. We just have to keep trying. And the next day was so much better. And from then on, it really has been successful. My piece of advice to you is, if you're wanting to potty train, or you have been and you kind of have been in and out, would be that be prepared to go all in, and even maybe start the process over. The book that I read and would recommend talks about that, of like, if you need a refresh, kind of like going back to what a day 1 of potty training looks like. But you have to be committed to doing this all of the time, and because that sends messages to our children. And so I think that was something I was aware of, was that I wasn't wanting to do this casually, because then I knew it would go on much longer, and my son would catch on that I'm not meaning this all the time. Like, sometimes we use the bathroom, but not all of the time. And I wanted it to be like that. This is what we do. We put our pee and poop in the potty all of the time, with the exception of sleep. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I had been asked, what approach did I take? Now, I did not do a whole lot of research on different potty training methods. I had heard a recommendation of a book, and I read that, and I found that it's, from talking with other moms, it seems similar to a lot of potty training methods, but the book I read was Oh Crap Potty Training. And this book, I actually did an audio book of it. I would recommend, if you do that, like, listen to it in your ears. She has a handful of times where she has some colorful language. And so I listened to it, and I think that aspect of the book I didn't love, but she had a lot of really good advice in the book. A few takeaways and a few like practical things that I took away from the book. One, she recommends that you start with at least 1 naked day. And we did probably multiple naked days in those first 12 days. So you do a naked day, and really the first day, first couple of days, but especially that first day, you are literally just watching your child, and you're watching them all of the time to see when they're, like, what their signal is. And she says that every kid has some kind of sign that they're about to go potty, and you have a couple of seconds before they do, and then once they start peeing, you tell them, you're peeing, hold it until we get to the potty, and you physically pick them up and you move them to the potty. You also then prompt and give those times, but really that first day, I think you're just home watching them. And so we did that, and it was really hard for me to figure out what my son did. I don't think I even figured it out till like 2 weeks in, and he like will stare at me, or he'll come and find me and look at me, kind of with a silly face, and it's like he knows, but he doesn't tell me he has to go potty. He still doesn't usually tell me. Most of our successes are from me prompting him at those like normal increments of our day, like before a meal, after a meal, before we leave the house, when we wake up from naps, all of those things. That is when we find success. A handful of times maybe he has told me, but otherwise it's really just through my promptings. And she says that that is a success. You know, that is successful if they got to the potty because you prompted them to get there and they had success. That's good. So I feel like we have been very successful, and I know that at some point he will have a stronger awareness of that feeling and that sensation of what it means to have to go to the bathroom, and he will be able to tell me that. So one time, this was probably even like a week in or a couple of days in, and I still hadn't figured out my son's signal. And so I was really focused on watching. My son woke up from nap time and I was committed to watching him, and I watched him and I watched him, and we played and I watched him, and I did not leave his side. And then he sneezed, and he was naked, and he sneezed and had boogers running down his nose. So I go from the kitchen to this entryway to grab a tissue, and I was literally gone like 3 seconds, and I walk back and he's peeing, and I was so like, are you kidding me? I've been watching you all day or all afternoon for like 2 hours, and the 2 seconds I walk away, you peed. And that actually told me something, though, was like that he was aware enough that he wanted some kind of privacy, that he waited until I like wasn't looking or was gone. So I knew that things were stirring and clicking if he was able to do that. We did do like some extra fluids on some of those days to just increase the opportunities for, you know, having to go to the bathroom. I think initially I wanted to prompt like every 10 seconds, like 10 minutes, because you're just thinking about it a lot. Because your job is to just sit there and watch your child. And so you're always thinking, do you have to pee? Do you have to pee? Do you have to pee? And so you want to ask your child all the time. But that started to create a bit of a power struggle, because anytime he would shift or do something or freeze, I would want to like get him right on the potty. And so I just had to relax a little bit, and I had to remind myself that it's just pee and poop. We can clean it up. He will learn how to do this. He is capable. And I had to like relax about it, because when I was so hyper focused on it, I was not probably the best parent that he wanted to be around. It wasn't very pleasant of an experience. Okay, so I am in a new location because I realized I'm gonna pop into this video. I remembered I didn't say something. So after our first few days of being naked, we would do no like naked with pants on. And at first I didn't do this, and I had him in like training pants. But as I continued to listen to the book, it became clear that you really want it to be like the most uncomfortable sensation for that awareness, where when there is closeness, like a pair of underwear or training pants, it almost feels too much like a diaper, that they would have an accident in their underwear thinking it's a diaper when it's not. And so she recommends just being naked with pants on, and we do that still most of the time, because I mean, just imagine like having nothing to absorb it. It's just going to go down your leg and puddle on the floor. And that's a different experience than just having wet underwear. We've gone from that, and then for specific outings, I might put on a pair of underwear or training pants that we have, and then a pair of pants just for a little bit more absorbency. But especially when we're at home, I don't tend to do that. And she also talks about not being completely naked for like more than a couple of days, just because, you know, we don't just run around naked all the time. And I think for some people that method can be difficult, but I do see the value in at least one naked day, and I think you would too. So anyways, okay, popping out of this video now, back to what I was saying. So for sleep, we still use diapers, and I guess for nap time I put a pull-up on, and for sleep we use a nighttime diaper. She does say like you can do nighttime at the same time, and it in some ways it makes the whole process easier if you're able to do all that, but most people don't do that. But she did recommend not waiting past like 3.5 to do the nighttime training, and so we will probably do that sometime soon-ish. But I wanted to find success with the day first. When I was putting on the diaper and the pull-up for nap time, I would say something to them like, we are wearing a diaper when you sleep because you will be sleeping a long time and you may not wake up to go to the bathroom. We only wear diapers while we're sleeping. For my son, it wasn't that difficult to have diapers around. I mean, clearly his brother is still in diapers and he is not. There were a couple of times he asked for them, and I just said, no, you don't wear diapers anymore except when you're sleeping. And usually he moved on, or I like would do something else with him. And it wasn't a huge power struggle, but I know I have a friend of mine who, like, just having a diaper visible was really challenging for her son. And so she just had to go, like, completely diaper free, naps, bedtime, all of it. Because just having a diaper made such a struggle for them. And so I think that's another one based on maybe the temperament of your child. You'll have to see what works or what doesn't work for them. So in the book, she talks about easy catches. That's just like when you get places, arriving, waking up, before you go, all of those like easy catches. And for me, I have just honestly found the most success of saying less. And just, I am deciding, like, those are the times that we do this. And there's not really a choice involved. And I know that might sound mean and rigid and harsh, but we know more than our child probably, especially when they're young, when is a good time to try. So when there are accidents or misses, we understand it because they're learning, but that isn't okay. So we have to communicate that in our language. So, and this is, again, we're just memorizing these little phrases was helpful for me. And so she recommends saying, like, no, your pee goes in the potty. Communicates both that this isn't okay and you're telling them what you expect to see. And it's easy here because we're frustrated that there's pee on the floor or poop on the floor. It's easy to want to say a lot and explain ourselves a lot. And I did this at times, but it's not super helpful or effective. And so, yes, less is more, I think, here. Another thing I'll say, like when we'll try on the potty, say before we leave the house, my son doesn't pee, or doesn't have to. Thank you for trying. When you have to pee, you need to hold it until we get to the potty. And so not if you have to pee, because we know it's going to happen. So just when you have to pee, that simple shift from if or when kind of just helps them know that this is going to happen. When it does, you're going to have to hold it until we get to the potty. I was also very careful to always have the potty with us. And so on those first couple of days, I would bring it where we were in the house. Now, at this point, I just keep it in the bathroom and we frequently go, and I prompt and we go to the bathroom, and that's where we go. I've actually had so much more success doing it that way because, one, I can close the door and he can't get out. And so we're kind of stuck in there until he goes to the bathroom. And it's not necessarily always a power struggle or hard. It's just there's so many more things in the house when the potty was just like sitting in the kitchen on the floor there was a lot of distractions from him going to the bathroom. And so having that like privacy, that designated place is so much more successful. In the beginning, in those first couple of days though, you want it really close by while you're just catching those pees so that you do find some success. And so I did find it helpful to have it really close by. So we have one now in our bathroom down here. We have one upstairs. I actually keep it in my son's bedroom because we mostly use it in there when we're upstairs. And then sometimes I'll just pull it into the hallway if we're like spending time up there. So maybe I said this, but when you see them peeing, you just say, you're peeing, hold it until we get to the potty. You pick them up and you bring them to the potty. And that's what I did. And then hopefully they have something more to get into the potty. I always let my son dump the pee into the toilet, and he loves it, or the poop, all of it. And this is a really fun thing for them, and to flush the toilet, they love that. I did set the limit recently to not let him flush every pee because our utility bill went up so much after we started potty training. So I was aware of that. My experience of potty training is that you are so aware of your child and your child's bodily functions that you almost can sense when they're going to have to pee or poop. Now, not all of the time, but if you're being observant and you're watchful and you're aware, you're going to know, like, it's been a while, or you didn't poop yesterday, maybe that's coming soon. You're going to be that kind of gut check for them. And when I listen to those gut checks, almost always there's success. If I have a feeling like, I think he's got to go potty, and I actually prompt him and get him to the potty and listen to that little gut feeling I have, there is success. And the times that I have those feelings, but maybe I'm in the middle of something or it seems inconvenient, there are so many times he had an accident and I just thought, oh, I should have listened to my gut, my conscience, those like Holy Spirit moments that I feel like, I think you have to go. And if I ignored them, usually that is when there was an accident or a miss. And so I have been trying to be more diligent to just listen to those promptings I am receiving or feeling, and going with them and trusting them. Even simple ones where I put one of my sons down, my son who's potty trained, I put him down first, and then I put my other son down. I just had this feeling, I think he's going to poop. And I went into his room and I sat with him a little longer, and he did. He peed and he pooped, and he had tried right before he went to bed, but maybe he wasn't relaxed enough, or he wasn't quite ready. But I could hear him stirring up there, and I just thought, I think I should go in there again. And it happened multiple days in a row like this. And I remember the one time that I didn't go in because I was maybe starting a project or in on something, and eventually I did go back up there to check on him because he hadn't fallen asleep, and he had pooped in his pull-up. And it was just one of those things, like I knew I should have gone back up there, but I kept going on with my little project and I didn't check, and there was an accident. And so that has been probably one of my biggest learnings for myself, is just staying in tune with that and staying present enough, not so distracted, but also not so hyper focused on it. So one really good question that I got was, how do I manage being outside or going to the park while simultaneously potty training? And kind of like what I said in the beginning, when we started potty training, we were doing this. This was the shift we were making, that now you go pee and poop on the potty all of the time, with the exception of sleep. And with that shift meant that we just had to be prepared. And so I did a couple of things to be prepared. One, I bring the potty with us everywhere we go. It's in the back of the car. I have a portable one in the diaper bag. I bring it outside when we go outside. I tuck it in the bottom of the stroller when we're at the park. I put it in the back of our burly, like when we're biking around. It just comes everywhere with us. And then I don't have a reason for not having it be successful. And then we get to somewhere, I'll just bring it in, go to the bathroom. I got like a little bag for it so that it's not, so obvious. I'm going to share in another video, actually, all of my potty training essentials, things that I just love. So yes, I just bring it with us wherever we go. And that is how I manage potty training while we are out and about. And I always just have changes of clothes. I have like a wet dry bag to put dirty clothes in. And I think by doing that, it has actually been a teaching, right? Because if my son does have an accident when we are out and about, there's so much more work involved with changing that and getting dry clothes and cleaning it up. And especially like we were on a road trip and I did that too, and we had to stop and take care of it. But we planned for that and we expected that kind of stuff to happen. And so, but he's learning and it's happening less frequently. There have been a couple times in this month where I feel like I've had to like bend the rules a little bit. And one was, we were at a wedding. We were traveling for a family wedding, and the boys were being watched by a babysitter. And I didn't expect, one, that my son would be as comfortable going potty with the babysitter. I knew that we wouldn't be as present to be prompting him and, be as aware of it as necessary. And so in those cases, what I did is I put a pair of underwear on, and then I put a pull-up over top of it so that he would have the feeling of being wet, but without leaking through his clothes. So it was kind of like it was kind of a compromise, where it wasn't a diaper, it was underwear with a pull-up, so that we wouldn't have the mess necessarily, but we would have an awareness if there was an accident. And so that's what we did. I also did that sometimes. I did that in the car when we were traveling, just to avoid like complete messes, because we were traveling kind of far. I also did it once when I dropped the boys off at a friend's house for a little while. Not that they couldn't have done it, but I almost didn't want to entrust that to those people to worry about. And so for that time, I just knew that when I re-entered in a couple of hours, we would pick back up with it, and all the progress we made wouldn't have been ruined. But I wouldn't recommend doing, like, I'd recommend starting. I didn't do that the first couple of weeks. It was like just in the last week or two that we did that. If you're starting out, you really have to kind of clear your schedule for a week and make a lot of adjustments, and then life will return to normal. But for those first few days, it feels a little weird because you really are making a lot of adjustments to find success for your child. And I think that's really important to getting a strong foundation for your child, is having as much success as possible. And you do that by keeping the environment predictable, constant, and really going based on what they're showing you they're ready for. So I did say I'm a mom of twins, and I chose to only train one of my boys at a time. The last time I tried, when they were about 18 months, I tried training both of them, and it wasn't a great experience. One, I wasn't super committed, but I knew, like, my brain couldn't hold all of that in my head, and so I knew I wouldn't respond to those situations in the best way if I was doing too much and dealing with too much. And so I really wanted to find success. I did initially try with both of them for about 40 minutes, and then I realized that I was not prepared for that, and I was just going to do one of them. And I think we haven't started with our second son yet, but we will soon. And I think it will be easier. He is already showing so much more readiness than when I started with his brother, and he will tell me pretty much when he is going to the bathroom. He'll even prompt his brother to go to the bathroom. It was hilarious. When we were traveling, we were in a hotel. We got there. We were going to go down to the pool to do some swimming before this rehearsal dinner. And so I had gotten the swimsuits out, and I just told one of my sons, I just told him, the one who is potty training or potty trained, I said, you need to go to the potty before we can go down and swim. Then they kind of are moving around the room. I was still unpacking a few things, and my other son, who's not potty trained, was holding all of their swimsuits, and his brother comes up to him and is trying to get the swimsuit from him, and he looks at him and goes, no, potty. And my son walks himself over, pulls down his pants, sits on his potty chair, and goes pee all by himself. And I didn't even say anything in that moment. It was just priceless and adorable. And he'll sometimes prompt him at home too, or remind him that, like, he has to go potty before we leave the house. So I think once it's his turn, I think he'll do a pretty good job with that. Day to day, sometimes it's just too much. We've a pretty small bathroom to have both of them in there, and so I'll just stay in the bathroom with one of them. And yes, my other son does want to come in. Sometimes I let him, other times it's just too much. But he's also not, like, horribly bothered by it. Maybe that's just his personality. Maybe other kids would really have a difficulty with that, but he hasn't seemed to mind. Maybe the first couple of days he was more interested, but I think he's been just fine that he hasn't been potty trained yet, and his brother is. So he will have his time very, very soon. In my next video, I'm going to share with you all of my potty training essentials. I'm going to pack a diaper bag with you and show what I take with us when we are going out and about. Maybe I'll even take you on a real life outing with my boys and kind of show you what it looks like when we are going out and what that prompting looks like while we are in the car or on a walk or on a bike ride. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions that I did not answer in this video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment or send me an email. I think my email is listed in the description box below. I love to hear from you and hope that I can be a resource for you. So I wish you the best of luck on your potty training journey. You can do this. It's hard work, but it is well worth it. And your child is so, so capable, and they need you to believe that as well. So I will see you next week for another video. Have a great day. Bye.